So our first caller is Matt. Pronouns he, him. He's from Georgia, and he's a theist, and he's got a question. He wants to know, what is virtue? And I would like to get a little bit of an elaboration on that, because that's kind of a philosophical, broad question. So Matt, can you hear us? And if you can you elaborate a little bit on your question?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you for having me on. It's a tough one to elaborate, and that's kind of why I'm asking almost, because I notice things that are virtuous, right? I can see things that are virtuous, but putting them into words is so difficult, and that's kind of why I'm asking other people. Can I ask both of you what you would consider virtue to be, and maybe that'll give me a better idea.
So, sure. I mean, for me, when I think of virtue, right, I tend to equate it to like things that meet the higher end of my moral system, characteristics, people, whatever. But because my moral system is, because I'm like a more or less, I believe morality is subjective, I understand that what is virtuous for me might not be virtuous for everybody. But at the same time, I recognize that pretty much every human society has converged on a couple of pretty key moral rules, independent of their religion, that seem to be like more or less the golden rule, right? Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, stuff like that. There are exceptions, but generally we see these features pop up in a lot of different societies. And so for me, virtue would be when we see someone take the morality that we subscribe to and go like above and beyond. Like it would be virtuous to me in my moral system for somebody to do selfless acts, right? Do something that put their life at risk to save someone else, right? I would consider that to be virtuous. But again,
I thought
recognize.
go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I thought of a definition as we were speaking, and I think it's a pretty decent definition. It's just behaving with high moral standards. Would that be acceptable?
Sure.
It's such an abstract question too, because what is virtue? I took a trip, and I was asking just a lot of people. I went to the city, basically Atlanta. And I was just stopping people, asking them that exact question: what is virtue? And I got a lot of different answers. But I guess at the heart of my question, what is the essence of virtue? Maybe I don't understand my question completely.
Matt, I have a question actually. What is the reason that you want to define this? Like, what is your motivation behind defining what virtue is?
That's a great question. I feel like, how would I describe it? There's no I'm not trying to trap you guys in some theist argument or anything. I'm more so, I guess the purpose, would a purpose of asking be okay? Would that be sufficient?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's more so I'm not entirely certain what virtue is for myself, and through other people's opinions, I can start to form. I'm not very used to thinking. I'm not a very smart guy, and I try to take other people's opinions and kind of implement them into my own life, so that I may be or behave with a higher moral standard. Does that make any sense?
It does, and I think that actually does make you a smart person. You're trying to learn from those around you and build an opinion based on like other people's opinions, kind of feeling how you. And also, Matt, I don't think that I don't love that you're considering yourself not to be a smart person. I think that you probably are a lot smarter than you're giving yourself credit for. But I'm curious about why you're asking this question and why the answer is something you're seeking, like what it means to you to be able to define what virtue is. Because ultimately, like if Erika is saying, and I agree, that virtue and your moral standards are subjective, what virtue is to you is not going to necessarily be what virtue is to everyone else. And so I think it's actually smart that you're asking all of these other people, because then you can kind of get a feel for what virtue means to you. But ultimately, any answer that we give you is going to be our version of that as well.
That's, okay. Okay. So what you're saying is it's something that I have to kind of, maybe a collaborative effort between asking other people and looking introspectively is kind of the is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also interesting to even take a moment and think about why it's important to you to be able to define what virtue is. Because when this question came up, the first thing I thought of was, wow, I guess I actually have never really thought about like how I would define that word. It's never even crossed my mind to define that word. And so it's interesting that it crossed yours. And so that might even be something interesting to reflect on. Like, why is this even important for me to truly define? What does it mean? What will it mean to me when I can truly define that? It just might be interesting.
Absolutely. That's a really good answer. I can't really, I don't really have a follow-up. That's honestly being introspective. I try to be introspective as much as I can. And it sometimes eludes me is the best way I can put it. It's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know, like I said before, I can name virtuous acts, but I guess at my core, you know, I don't quite know what virtue is to me. You know, I can take all the opinions of everybody else, but what is it to me? And I guess that's the most important question to answer, right? Because this is my life, just like it's your life, but it's my life. I'm experiencing my life, and that's a really important question to answer. I guess the purpose of the call really is to kind of talk myself through it as much as you two kind of talk me through it. Because I'm not used to thinking. You know, I grew up Catholic, and you know, I'm not very used to thinking. So it helps to have some guidance as to how to think is the best way I can put it.
Well, I think it's just nice to bounce ideas off of other people, right? To, you know, as we were kind of just discussing, if, you know, to take a step sort of into our realm here, right? If morality is subjective, then you can get a decent idea as to what is more or less universally virtuous by everybody's subjective morality, or at least most people's subjective morality, by talking to people. Like, I bet if you asked every single person on the planet, the majority of people are going to be like, yeah, try to treat others as you would want to be treated. I feel like that would pop up a lot, right? Or don't kill for, you know, non-justifiable reasons, like self-defense or whatever, right? Things are going to pop up consistently that are morally consistent across a lot of different people. And I would bet that on the flip end of that spectrum, morals or moral actions that go above and beyond by everybody's subjective opinion, aka things that are virtuous by most people's, you know, takes, you're going to come across some commonalities as well, the more people you ask. And that might help you get a good idea as to like, okay, well, where does that intersect with what you think is virtuous or with what you don't think is virtuous?
That's a good point. So, that's a very good point. Yeah. It's just so difficult because the people I generally talk to and associate with don't want to have these conversations, like my close friends, right? And really, this is the first place that I've truly found that I can ask these questions and not be ridiculed or put down for asking these questions. It's even hard to do it in public because nobody wants to talk about big questions like this. So, I mean, it's a good outlet. And you two seem very smart, and all the other hosts seem incredibly smart, and I want to learn from you guys. So, I mean, that's a very good answer. I'm really going to have to reflect on this a bit, and I'll probably end up calling back within the next couple days, like normal.
Please do.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great. That means you're doing exactly where human curiosity should lead you, right? That's taking you down the rabbit hole. That's where we tend to do our most of our growth, is when we're putting ourselves in these uncomfortable positions and asking ourselves these questions that maybe we haven't really broached before. So good on you for investigating and looking inward.
I greatly appreciate it. And thank you, too, for your time. And I hope the rest of your day goes swimmingly.
Of course.
Oh, likewise, Matt.
All right.
Take
it easy. Thank you for your answers.
Of course.
Bye, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching that clip. Hey, we're trying to do some data research about whether or not our callers successfully proved that God existed. If they didn't, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's how we know they failed. But if you don't like and subscribe, you're saying that they succeeded. So you're saying that by liking and subscribing, you will be affirming that you are an atheist. Hey, what else should they do?
I don't know. Maybe go to patreon.com/calltheline and donate some of their hard-earned money.
Like and subscribe.